We have to be quiet now.
I can't hear.
Good morning. Please bow your heads. Thank you, Father, for the gift of Rotary and each other. Bless this food as we nourish our bodies and our minds. May we be ever mindful of those in need. Help us to provide food to the hungry, to heal the wounds of hatred with our love, comfort those in sorrow, and please bring peace and wisdom to our political leaders in the coming days, and to help guide and provide those that have unrest with rest. In your name, amen.
I apologize to our friends on Zoom for not unmuting, but I saved you from hearing me sing. Please welcome President-elect John Healy to announce our visiting Rotarians and guests.
We have one prospective member visiting, Lori Brokelbank, and I'll let Todd introduce her.
Lori's the area manager at Arborist for Data Resources Group, and she would like to join. It's Lori Brokelbank. Oh, sorry. Lori Brokelbank. She's the area manager and arborist for Davies Resources Group, and she'd like to join the club.
Thank you, John. Someday we'll hire an IT guy to do the camera switching. Our Rotarially Yours recorder today is Lynn Gruhl. As always, we thank the committee for all the work they do in keeping us informed. Joni Blackman sent an email this morning. Please take a look at it. It's about the foundation gala. It's online, it's virtual, no excuses to attend. You don't have to get out in the snow. Huh? Right, no excuses not to attend. And I was going to save you from coming up here and making an announcement. I am short on announcements today. Are there any other announcements to share? Diana Meckley, who kindly reminded me that we have a box for literacy books. Please bring them each week.
Thank you. Yes, in addition to the box, which I was here on time last week, so I got to stand by the box and remind people that we can use your books. But one of the people I talked with last week was Phil Calla. And he was like, oh, we don't want to carry all our books in here. And I said, no, you don't. We do car-to-car transfers. So today he brought 3 boxes of books. And after the meeting, we'll just transfer those boxes. So the box here is just a reminder. And if you just have a few books, maybe you were at the Dollar Tree or somewhere and picked up a few, you know, you can just throw them in the box. But we're happy to do box to box or car to car transfers. And we're also happy to come to your house if you need some assistance. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dana. Any other announcements? Now I will invite Joni up for our birthday table celebration. And then you're up next for 50-50 raffle.
All right, birthdays. So I did send out that email that I kept threatening you that I would about the upcoming Foundation Gala on February 23rd. So it's a double for your money. It's $120. $100 of it goes to the foundation. 20 of it is used for the event. And so it starts with our local district, 7090, plus we're with another district. We're doing our own little foundation gala, giving awards away. It'd be a lot of fun. They have a signature drink. I heard the word brandy involved. I'm not much of a drinker, but I know what that is. Anyway, so that's at 6:45 on Wednesday night, February 23rd. And then it rolls into at 8 o'clock with the foundation gala, which is the entire Rotary Foundation, which you know how gigantic that is and all the work we do globally. We're all part of that. So we really ask that you, a few people at least, if you're interested from the club, join in on that. Okay, so these folks have birthdays this month. And the first one is Joel Kiefer. Joel's birthday was February 1st. He's married to Jessica. He works at Schultz Nissan Subaru, sales consultant, probably been pretty busy this year. Went to SUNY Fredonia. He's been in our club since 2011, and Randy Sweeney asked him to be a member. Happy birthday, Joel. Anna, oh, I just touched something. Anna Woolgamuth is our next birthday girl, February 2nd. She's an optometrist at Spectrum Eye Care. And she went to Rensselaer Polytech Institute, then Pacific University, and then American Lake Veterans Hospital for her residency. She is married to Rob. She joined us in 2014, and Greg Jones asked her to be a member. And she is a Paul Harris Fellow from 2021. Happy birthday, Anna. Jim Gamina, yay. He's the only true birthday body here. February 3rd was his birthday. And he is president of the Jamestown Musical Association still. And he is retired from the Army, Lieutenant Colonel. Served 32 years and 22 months active duty. Thank you for your service. And he went to JCC, Gannon, and received his JD from LaSalle University in 1991. He's been with us since 2018, sponsored by John Lloyd. Happy birthday, Jim. John Saff, whose birthday is February 14th, married to Sally. Boy, he gets to celebrate 2 things that day. Retired from M&T Bank. I remember when I was there, he was there, vice president and trust officer. Went to Jamestown Business College and Jamestown Community College. Joined us in 1987. Can you remember 1987? Happy birthday, John. Don Weaver. Don Weaver also celebrates his birthday on February 14th. He's married to Amy. He's the chairman of Weaver Material Service Incorporated. Joined us in 2010, and Dudley Erickson is his sponsor. So let's sing happy birthday to the February sweethearts. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear February sweethearts. Happy birthday to you. All right, so I'm going to have Kevin, who doesn't have a birthday in February. Wait a minute, pick a name. Yeah, go ahead. Ah, it's the one I wanted. Jim, you won lunch. Since you come and eat lunch, it works out pretty good. So I'll give you the certificate in a minute. Happy birthday. All right. Now I'm going to do the 50-50, right? Okay. So $54 came in, 27 to the winner. Have our guest pick the ticket. Thank you. The number is, if it's up, whoa. Last four digits, 2324. Two, 3, 2, 4. Did you? Interesting. Congratulations, Sally. That's great.
With that, here comes Doug Conroe, your sergeant at arms for your fines and happy bucks.
Happy days. It's very happy to see you again, Lori. It's been a while. Welcome. Join the club. That's good. And not a lot going on in the paper still, but there is something. There seems to be a new senior vice president in the room who had his picture in the paper last week. Yeah. Oh, I paid for it. Okay, Todd, past President Todd. Got it. And I see online, I see Stacy's name online, and she's in today with a group of football officials and their spouses. So Stacy, you can do that electronically, I'm sure. Walt will remind you how as we talk about things, right, Walt?
Thank you.
Oh, boy. Next, where are we? Music. Tim, you're here. Historian, yeah. On this date in 1964, what happened? Great music breakthrough, so to speak. Hi. Yeah. The Beatles arrived in New York City. I didn't hear her. Well, she didn't. She needs to speak up more. Oh, so okay. We'll let you off on that one. But on this date in 1587, we'll pick one that none of you were born at. Okay. What happened in Fotheringham Castle in Scotland? You kind of close. No. I'm giving. What? What did your table come up with? Braveheart. Ah, Mary Queen of Scots was beheaded on this date. Well, oh, Lee got it, but your table didn't get it, so pony up, pony up. Now, let's see. Find me another table back there. Hi, Amy. You're hiding there. Okay. Today is National Ballet Day, National Rose Day, National Fettuccine Alfredo Day, National Periodic Table Day, National Sickie Day. So would you say none of the above, all of the above, or three of the above? It's actually all of the above. Ooh. Okay, thank you, thank you. And let's see. Lee. You're good on the other one. What country as of last night had the most gold medals? I'd say people who are Swedish in this room would be proud since we're the city of Swedes, so to speak. Okay. All right. So that pretty well concludes it, although I'm sure our speaker today would like to know if there are JHS grads in the room. So every Jamestown High School grad, I'm sure you want to donate to the cause. And Kevin? Happy bucks. Happy bucks.
And with that, we'll also invite you to Happy Bucks.
To the Harris.
The new athletic field be named after me.
No announcements for Happies, just running up. All right. Yeah. Any Happy Bucks? We thought you just worked with the school system.
Did your husband have some sort of silly job at Jamestown?
Yeah.
That's a happy buck.
10th grandchild for the Cathmans. Any other Happy Bucks? Last call. All right. And it's my privilege to invite Tori Ergang from Program Committee to introduce our speaker today.
Okay, no, I'm good. Hi, everyone. Dr. Kevin Whitaker joined Jamestown Public Schools as the superintendent in June of 2020. And as we were walking in together, I was saying to him, you haven't lived in this community except during a global pandemic. So he lacks some of the awareness of regular everyday life here, but he came to us after nearly a 30-year career in education. Most recently, before arriving here, he was the assistant superintendent for school improvement and accountability for the Geneva City Schools, a highly diverse district of approximately 2,500 students with high levels of poverty. He is very focused on equity issues and high performance for all students. He had began his teaching career in Albany before coming to the Rochester area, and he's virtually worked at all levels of education, including in the classroom and as an administrator. He earned his bachelor's degree in English and psychology at Union College in Schenectady, followed by a master's also from Union and a certificate of advanced study from SUNY Brockport and his doctorate from U of R. He's been married for many years. We were chatting about his family. He has two what I would call mostly grown daughters, one who is a freshman in college and one who has recently finished college and is working as a psychiatric nurse in Rochester. So without further ado, Dr. Whitaker, hopefully his presentation, a moment of ado.
Well, while we wait for tech to happen, I can say that I'm familiar with this layout because this is very much like a faculty meeting where nobody sits right up front and everyone sits in the back. Nobody wants to be called on. How's it working? Not yet? Nope. So my oldest daughter graduated from St. John Fisher, and she's in Rochester working at Strong Memorial Hospital in their psych department. And my youngest is a basketball player. She was very fortunate to be the recipient of a number of awards in high school, and also very fortunate enough to be offered a scholarship to play Division I basketball down in South Carolina. So she is a 6'5", 18-year-old, and not the small kind. So she's having a heck of a fun time with her teammates down in South Carolina. I'll tell you, as a person who is associated with the Union College hockey team, and which is a Division III sport, all the travel and all that stuff, a lot of buses riding around to Vermont and Southern Tier and Pennsylvania and wherever, New Jersey, to play games, pales in comparison to what my daughter's going through, trying to navigate her academics while getting on a plane to fly out to California and play in a tournament and then fly somewhere else and drive 4 hours on a bus and go to different states. It's been a learning experience for her, for sure. So anyway, thank you very much for the invite. Maybe I'll stand over here. And I was asked to talk about the district's approach to diversity, equity, and inclusion, challenges and opportunities facing the district, specifically related to COVID and diversity and workforce development, in addition to literacy and how can Rotary help? No problem. Oh yeah, I got to keep that to 15 minutes too. All right, well, as I have been told, the mark of being an expert in something is to be able to explain it in 5 levels, starting with the child and ending with a doctoral level understanding. So if I can pull this off in 15 minutes, I will be very proud of myself. So to start off with DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, and I do see that you have a speaker coming to talk about implicit bias, which is great. We'll have a conversation briefly. I won't spoil anything about that. So the 4 Ps is really where I start and where we have started this work. The 4 Ps start with policy. And policy is you need to make sure that the group that employs you, in my case, the group that is the policy-making decision body in the school district is on board with what you're looking to do. So we began with a policy, and that diversity, equity, and inclusion policy calls on us to review our systems, our processes, our curriculum, our documents, our procedures, and look for evidence of bias. There are plenty of ways that bias can creep into all kinds of systems. So we began with that, and I was very fortunate that the school board was on board with that. And they were eager and happy to see that work start. And I was pleased that we were able to move that quickly. The second P is people. You start with people. You don't start with the boss saying this is what you're going to do. You start with people and understanding what your role is in a system and understanding about yourself. So if you have to start with 1 and then 1 turns into 2 and 2 into 4, 4 into 8 and so on, that's the way it has to happen. Otherwise, it's somebody else's initiative that goes away when that somebody else leaves. The third P is practice, and that is, what does it look like when you are practicing what you say is diversity, equity, inclusion? Or before you've started the work, what does the environment look like for kids? What does the environment look like for parents? Do they feel like it's a place where they're represented? Do they feel like it's a place where they are welcomed, where they are seen and celebrated? Or is it different? And then the last P is kind of 2 Ps at once. One is performance. The other one is predictability. Performance, yes, has to do with how do you do on things like accountability metrics and state standards and state assessments and regents exams and things like that. But really, it's about the predictability of performance. If you are someone from a good family who has a certain level of resources, you're probably going to do pretty well. If you are someone who is not from that family with those resources. Maybe you're a person of color. Maybe you're someone who lives in a certain area of town. Maybe you have a disability. Is it predictable that you will not be successful? That's the predictability part of performance. So we started with our building equity teams. Each one of our buildings formed an equity team. And the work that we undertook was to start with ourselves. So everybody in the building equity team may have been interested in launching right out and starting a project. But instead, what we did first was we looked inward and said, what do we know about ourselves? What kind of understanding do we have about implicit bias? What kind of understanding do we have about our intercultural competence? So we started with, what do you think you are? Where do you think you land? And then we took this assessment called an IDI, and it helped us understand where we actually were. And there's always a gap, and we work to understand the differences in the gap. So I'll talk about the goals and the importance of student voice and parent voice in this work. But I wanted to touch on a couple of key beliefs. Here are a bunch of them. We're public servants, all kids can learn, diversity is strength. I had a friend of mine who, of course, was a football player say that football is the greatest sport in the world. And I thought that what he was saying was, football's awesome because I played football. And then he said, no. What I'm talking about is you take big people and little people and slow people and fast people and people who can catch and people who can tackle and poor people and rich people, people of color from everywhere. And you come together and you're a team. That's why football is the greatest sport. I have my other opinions about what the greatest sport is, but his point is well taken, that diversity is strength. If you as a football coach recruit only wide receivers, you're going to have some issues in other areas of your game. If you only focus on one part of your sport, you're going to have some issues in other areas of your game. That's why diversity is a strength. Maybe it's me. So there's a fifth one up from the bottom. Maybe it's me. Getting the thought process in terms of DEI, where you can say, maybe the thing that is causing whatever the thing is coming from me. I had that experience when I was a brand new teacher. I would talk to kids in the hallway and we'd have great conversations. Maybe we'd talk about working on a truck, or maybe we'd talk about something that was going on in their lives. As soon as we got in the classroom, I had an issue, I had problems, disrespectful, throwing stuff. I couldn't figure it out. And then I realized, oh, it's me. I'm a different person in the hallway than I am in the classroom. I was playing teacher. So they were playing troubled students. Until things got real, until we built a relationship, that didn't change. Systems and their perfect designs. One of the things that's most important to realize about DEI work, you hear a lot of terms about systemic issues. Systems, as Einstein said, systems are perfectly designed to get the results that they get. So whatever results you're getting, there is a system that is perfectly aligned to create those results. So in order to make some changes, if you find that there are issues, you have to look systemically. You have to look at your systems and what the beliefs have gone into creating those systems, and are they doing what they purport to be doing? There's an author named David Foster Wallace who gave a commencement speech a number of years ago, and he said, the exact same experience can mean two totally different things to two different people, given those people's two different belief templates and two different ways of constructing meaning from experience. So the same thing from two different perspectives can be two completely different things. Here's what we're trying to get to. These four things: an increase in engagement and attendance in school and at school. Engagement and attendance. Number two, meaningful connections between home and school. We have lots of people who feel disenfranchised, disconnected from the school system. We have a lot of people who feel really connected, but it's not everybody. Increasing our graduation rate overall, and also for this thing called disaggregated subgroups, which is all of the components of our population, not just overall, but how do special education students do? How do Latino students do? How do African-American students do? How do students in poverty do? And that thing I just talked about, decreasing predictability based on race, culture, family, poverty, housing, history, classification. Challenges and opportunities. What are some challenges and opportunities? See that graph there? That was COVID. That was COVID since September. That spike there is January. That's Omicron. So we had similar spikes in previous Delta, the original, right? Was it Gamma? Is that the original one? We had learning gaps that already existed, pretty significant learning gaps. Any progress we were making on those things completely stopped. We had significant issues in attendance. We still do. Our attendance dropped 10%, 20% in some of the times of high transmission. Because remember, at the time, it was 10 days. Anytime you were near anybody that had COVID, out for 10 days. That's significant. Maybe that happened 2, 3, 4 times in any given year. So our attendance is 50% influenced by COVID. Either you have COVID or you've been quarantined as a result of being a close contact. MHA stands for mental health arrests. Lots of challenging mental health situations that have come to a head. Remember, we spent a long time in essentially stay at home and don't come out of your house mode, and then a stay at home a lot and come to school occasionally mode. And then everybody comes back to school, but you have to stay away from each other and you can't sit near each other and you have to wear masks and you've got to be in a different environment in the cafeteria. And now you're going to be eating in a different place because we have too many people in one location. All of this is extremely traumatic and challenging for students who may already have social issues and mental health issues, socio-emotional issues. We had significant sidetracking. New York State Department of Health had very specific regulations that we had to follow. Some of those I just mentioned. The governor, every day, would come out and say stuff and had emergency powers. And those things, imagine in your lives or in your business, and some of this did happen, but imagine if the governor would say, this is how you have to run your business. These are the decisions you have to make. You must do business with these people and not those people. That's the level of granularity that we were seeing on a day-to-day basis. So we ended up chasing regulation and executive order around and around and around all of last year and through a significant part of the beginning of this year too. Literacy, jumping to literacy. It was essential and now it's critical. We have some significant issues around literacy. We've hired a coordinator of literacy. We've begun a systematic process around literacy where everybody is going to have the same experience. There's this program called LETRS, L-E-T-R-S, and we are starting with the science of reading. Started with our reading teachers, moved to our administrators. We've now been training dozens of teachers at a time in the science of reading and what the latest research is on how to teach kids reading and how to engage kids in remediation related to reading. I can talk about curriculum and curricular systems too, but I'm running short on time. Growing diversity. The first thing we have to do is acknowledge that we are a diverse community in a real way. The way I did that was I reached out to the pastors. I reached out to the pastors in our Latino community, and I've reached out to the pastors in our African-American community. Those are the two primary groups. And I've made a lot of friends and I've learned a lot of things. One of those things is something that I call demographic denial syndrome. And demographic denial syndrome is a very specific thing. And I'm pretty confident I invented it because I seem to be the only one talking about it. So if you hear anybody mention it, it came from me. So demographic denial syndrome is a thing that happens probably to businesses as well, but primarily to school districts. And this could be Jamestown, but it definitely has been the other school districts I've been associated with also. So it's not just us. Demographic denial syndrome starts with things are going pretty well. It's 1950, it's 1990, it's 2005, it's 1986, whatever the years were when things were clicking. Families were doing well, school was doing well, serving the purpose, kids were getting out, getting jobs, moving into college, whatever it is that the community desired. And then something changed, something. can tell you that in Newark, it was Sarah Coventry leaving. It took out a segment of the population that moved parents, families, kids, money, all of that stuff out of the community. And that was in the 90s. That was like 92 or something. And so the community changed, the kids changed, the demographics changed, but the school stayed the same because it worked. Keep doing what worked, except the community is going this way and the school's going this way. And you end up far apart. That's demographic denial syndrome, because you are desperately trying to do the same thing that used to work, but you're working at it harder and it's not working. So recognizing that and realizing that it's time for us to change to meet the needs of the community is an essential part of what we're trying to do. There's some other things on here: mascot, imagery, refugees coming. This idea of assimilation versus multiculturalism. Assimilation is an idea that if you come from someplace else, you have to learn the way we do things and do things that way. And often you'll hear people say, especially here, well, hey, X or Y community came here and we assimilated. There's a very strong Swedish pride here. So there can be other cultures that have pride here and still work within the multicultural. Think about that football team, the multicultural diversity strength. Workforce recruitment. Here's sort of my crazy ideas. This is where I want to go with this. We have a grant called the Early College High School Grant. It's going to be around for a few years. We're going to get some money to do some renovations and to build some curriculum and to get some kids into an early college high school path. But I have a vision to take that and create an innovation center. We happen to have this Rogers Elementary School that's hanging out over there. And I would like to create an innovation center. In that innovation center, I'd like to create 3D printing and design and CAD and Project Lead the Way. If you're not familiar with that, I'll talk about that in a minute. Robotics. First Robotics is a robotics competition where you pair engineers with students to solve problems and they compete against each other. Project Lead the Way is a college-based curriculum where you learn certain pathways: healthcare, bioscience, computers, engineering. You can choose different pathways. So what I see is opportunities for kids in an innovation center where they can choose various pathways at whatever level they decide to choose. And we can have successful kids who have experience working with those who are in the community and in business currently, and can provide mentorship. And then the last thing, at least on this, is around the airport. As a person who's been associated with airports and flying as a pilot, I know that there's three significant components to aviation. One is the one that everybody sees, and it's a pilot flying the plane. So we can help kids get connected to what's called ab initio programs, where they can start knowing nothing and they can work their way through and be guaranteed a job as a pilot. Something like 50% of all pilots in this commercial service are going to be retiring in the next few years. Delta, for example, has made a pledge that 50% of their new hires will be people of color. So there's an enormous opportunity for kids here. That's being a pilot. You can also be involved in avionics. You can be an avionics technician. You can learn how to work on all the instruments that go inside a plane. And we have, right up here at the airport, one of the most well-known and renowned avionics shops in the Northeast. When I didn't work here, I flew here to have planes worked on in the avionics shop. And then the third thing is what's called an A&P, airframe and power plant. It's a specialized kind of mechanic who works on airplanes. And all of these things are extremely well-paying professional positions that can be open to kids. So last slide, how to help. We need connections with local manufacturers, mentoring and direct support of kids, securing training and support for the startup of the Innovation Center, local connections to support the initiative, so connecting people with people around First Robotics, aviation, that sort of thing, and developing a pipeline for internships so that students can try different jobs, different careers, and find out if they hate it or if they love it. And that I have no idea on time because there's no clock to look at. That is that. Do I have more time? Awesome. So now is the opportunity for questions. I can talk about curriculum stuff. I could talk about all kinds of stuff that I skipped over, but questions I think are important. Yes. Yeah. Can I make use of the Dream It, Do It program, which was around, and I have talked with Todd Tranum about that. Yes, I would love to continue those connections. Yes. Yes. How about junior achievement? Many of us are volunteers for junior achievement. I'd love to hear more. Anything that can help kids. Yes. Yep. So the question is, what is currently working well that we can build on? And here's the thing. It depends on who you are. And that's one of the things that I'm working to make an impact in. We have programs that lead to college. We have programs that prepare students for the world of work. You know, BOCES Connections, PTech. Some of those programs are tremendous. And if you are the kind of student who that is designed for, and that is something that you have either the family resources for or the background for, boy, we are knocking it out of the park with some of that stuff. Just really killing it. But that doesn't impact everybody. There are a lot of kids who are kind of left behind. And one of our models in all of education, all of public education, that we're working to change is there are some kids who have kind of a greased path, act in this way, behave in this way, have these values, things are going to go smoothly. Be different. It's going to be a huge challenge for you. And there's going to be all sorts of things that you can trip over. And we can say, I can't believe you fell down. You got to get up if we're going to help you. So that's what I'm looking to make an impact on. That's true of all public education, not just here. But we have a real challenge in front of us related to our various community challenges, all of which fit the analogy of the football team. We have a lot of strengths all over the place. We're just focused in one particular area, and we've got lots of kids and lots of families that have other strengths in other areas that I'm seeking to reward. Yes, sir.
One of your slides said grades should not be used as a weapon. The corollary, should grades be used as an incentive?
Yeah, so my belief, is it back? My belief is that you should keep behavioral things behavioral and academic things academic, and don't cross the two. Sometimes it can be confusing to kids. And I say this all the time. A kid is okay going from one place to another place and to another place that have different rules and expectations. I go to church. I go to my grandma's house. I go to my friend's house. Different rules, different expectations. They're okay with that. What they're not okay with is in a particular place, it changes all the time. I don't know what I'm going to face. That, at home on Monday, it's one thing. On Tuesday, it's a different thing. In English class on Wednesday, it's one thing. On Thursday, it's completely different. I have no idea what to expect. That's what they're not so great with. So the more consistency we can have, around keeping academics in the academic lane and keeping behavior in the behavior lane, the better kids will be able to understand that. So here's, I guess, what I'm trying to get at. Some people struggle with, maybe I'll relate it to something a lot of people are going through now. Some people struggle with mask rules and vaccination rules and things like that. And the idea was to incent their behavior through legislation. You can't go into a restaurant without a vaccination card. You can't see the Bills game without a vaccination card. We're attempting to cross two things, or the government is, or elected officials are attempting to cross two things. Some people don't mind that. And there's probably 25% of students who say, oh my gosh, you're going to take some points off because I might be late. You're going to offer me bonus points because I did something extra. they enjoy that. They get motivation out of that. But about 75% of kids don't. And we're seeing 25 to 50% of our population refusing to change their behavior around vaccinations or around masks. And it's the same kind of thing. We're attempting to use one thing to fix another thing, and it doesn't necessarily correlate. So I don't know. That's a long answer to your question. The short answer is yes for some kids, but no for most. Which is hard for us most of the time because we're pretty successful people. And it worked for us, I'm guessing. Yes. When you say environmental justice, what do you mean? Like social justice? Mm. Sure. Yeah, well, we can't, by regulation, we can't treat different groups of students differently or different buildings differently. We have to show on this thing called a transparency report that we're spending the same amount in every place for every kid. Improvements can't happen in one place without them happening in another place. We have to be cautious about how much money we're allocating to professional development, to books, to curriculum work in one place compared to another place. So in that sense, yes. Yeah, so I would describe it as this. Sounds like a great idea. Let us know when you got that together. That's how I would describe it. So the ball really got pushed back to our court. Now, I would say that the individuals that I talk with, say at Cummins, for example, locally, the individuals are very interested and they really want to see things go well. But I think that a giant company like Cummins is approached by lots and lots of people. So there's a certain number of layers you have to get through in order to make a connection. Here's what I feel. I feel like if we can have some small wins, it will grow. It will grow exponentially as people see, oh, that worked here for this group. Oh, that was a great experience we had with that kid. And then it will grow. So I'm playing the long game in a lot of ways with all of these things. It's not a hurry up. It's not a force it in a year or two, even though that would feel great. It's just not sustainable to be able to force something that quickly. This is a multi-year process for all these things. Yeah, question on Zoom.
At what level, i.e. elementary or high school, can we provide support for the letters program?
Elementary is the main focus for letters right now. Elementary teachers is where we're focused. Eventually, we're going to get to all of our levels. So reaching out to elementary principals, reaching out to our reading coordinator, reaching out to Tina Sandstrom, district office, that's going to be a good course of action there.
I guess I would follow that up with what kind of support can be lent.
Yeah, so I feel like the biggest support is connections. People know people. So conversations with folks who you know might be connected with these sorts of things, maybe engineers who might have an interest in helping kids work on a robotics team and understand electronics. That would be great. People who work in or manufacture or have connections to CAD programs, health sciences, computer aided design, all of these high-tech industries. Making connections is the way to open the door for us.
Speaking of football, maybe I missed this, but
Yeah.
I saw the cat in the paper last week. It was awesome. But I think I missed the name.
Yeah, well, the Raiders, the Red Raiders is still the name. Yep. So No, once upon a time, there was quite a lot of discussion about that back, my gosh, first year probably I was here about the name. We started with the name. And the board voted this past summer, I think it was, to keep Red Raiders. One of their thought processes with that was that was the original name. And in my conversations with the Seneca Nation, they said, you know, look, we don't have an issue with the word red. That's not a problem normally, but you guys, meaning Jamestown Public Schools, you guys associated that caricature for like 40 years with red. So they believe that it is tainted because of that, and they would prefer a change. However, with that said, they are very pleased that we did make a change to the graphics, and they're eager to have us move forward. I think they've been super open, and they've been a great group of people to work with and have taught us a lot for sure. Yes, sir. How certain I am? Oh my gosh. Sure. Well, I can tell you that the current Board of Education is pretty convinced that they've resolved the issue. This is the name and this is the image. I can't tell you what a Board of Education in 3 or 5 or 7 years will think of the issue, nor can I tell you how the community may or may not change in relation to that particular name. There are people who feel very strongly on both sides of the issue, and I would say they're equally passionate in each of the directions they want it to go. Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There are so many groups that help in small little ways and big giant ways that make things happen here. It is really incredible. And in a way, that what that has done is it has masked, as we keep taxes the same, inflation makes things more expensive. So the generosity of the community and the agencies has masked the separation between how much it really costs to run programs and how much we're actually collecting in terms of taxes. One of the things that are, as you may know, the Maystow case, which is a small cities lawsuit, which is different from the Campaign for Fiscal Equity, which resulted in a couple of % increase in foundation aid. The Maystow case is specific to small cities. And that case says essentially, we have a lot of challenging students, a lot of challenging situations, and very, very low ability to tax our population. House values expanding or not, economics, whereas other places have massively expanding economic situations, and we don't, small cities don't. So I had one of the expert witnesses reach out to me and say, after an analysis, I think your district needs 75 reading teachers just to break even. So we are that far apart in terms of what other districts would do in order to address students who are falling behind, because we haven't been able to afford to do the things that we need for kids. So I'm really counting on that Maystow case to come through and for us to get funding that we've long been due from the state so that we can provide our kids with what they deserve. Anything else from Zoom? All right, anything else here? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Whitaker. One of Rotary's major international programs is the eradication of polio in the world. We are down to just 2 countries where polio still exists. And in honor and thanks for your presentation to our club today, we will be making a donation in your name that will vaccinate 4 children who will never experience polio in their life. Remembering this year's Rotary International theme, Serve to Change Lives, caring for and serving others is the best way to live because it changes not only other people's lives, but also our own. Thank you. We are adjourned.